Welcome to Tactical Lore, an analysis of movies, games, comic books from a tactical and security perspective. This is not a critique or a review, it's just for fun. Maybe a resource in case any indie devs, writers, artists need some ideas on how to tackle some of these plot points for their own stories, games, movies, fan fictions, so on and so forth. So we're going to start with Resident Evil 1. Going off of the residentevil.fandom.com wiki site, check them out. The main story is Raccoon Police Department sends an elite Special Forces unit, STARS, stands for Special Tactics and Rescue Service. This is civilian, by the way, so it falls under city-state jurisdiction, so like a police department. We'll go more into that later. They go in there to investigate homicides, bizarre murders, apparently reports of people getting attacked by multiple groups, and they send in STARS to investigate. Now, typically you would not send their civilian or their real-world counterparts, which is SWAT, to investigate right out the gate. But when you have a setting of what they have, which is pretty clever for Capcom to set it up this way, you would want SWAT or a special unit to go investigate beforehand if there's just too much danger for beat cops or detectives to go in. If you know that the place has a warrant, there's barricaded suspects, dangerous groups, animals, or even dangerous terrain, you would send someone in like this first. So this actually works. As far as having them investigate, a lot of departments do have positions like for SWAT or these special units as additional duties, or even if they're not additional duties, you still have to meet the minimum requirements. You can expect the people that are part of STARS to have basic and in some instances advanced training and investigations. So again, in real life, someone who's SWAT probably started as a patrol officer. They hit some sort of minimum requirement, like maybe a year or two. The department I was in, you had to have 3 years. Then you went through a tryout, and then you had to like fucking the lieutenant's wife, kiss his ass or some shit. I don't know if you can tell, but I didn't really like him. And if you pass, then you get, more training. So STARS is also supposed to have civilian scientists as well, which actually works. Police departments have civilians. Some work alongside officers for things like evidence handling, processing, crime scene investigations, hazmat, hazardous material processing, and also for zombie stuff too.
Gainesville Police! Gainesville Police! So lock your doors, lock your cars, lock up your bicycles. So that you don't become a victim of a zombie.
Now, hold up. You got one dude wearing a bandana and BDUs or battle dress uniform, camel pants. Jill's got a beret. Wesker's got sunglasses at night. I wear my sunglasses at night. They look ate up as fuck, especially for being an elite unit. I mean, I don't know why you would do a helicopter insertion. That's because they came in a helicopter. And you would be wearing a beret. Tactically speaking, berets suck. I mean, everybody hates them in the military. You have to shave them, then you got to wet them down, put them on your head, and shape it, and then let it dry, and do that 2 or 3 more times, and they still look all ate up. So, I mean, I don't know why she would choose to wear a beret in an operation that involved helicopters. But that aside, the gear is wrong, but the premise is right. Real world counterparts. So we're going to compare STARS and Raccoon City Police Department with USLE, or law enforcement, since this takes place in a fictional city in the US. So NYPD, they have ESU, Emergency Service Unit, which has tactical teams, rescue teams, hazmat, medical squads, jet skis, aviation units, etc. LAPD, they have helicopters in their specialized units, so aviation units, and the STARS insertions was done with helicopters. Because it's so isolated, the terrain is dangerous, and sending regular patrol or detectives is just not feasible or practical. We have some real world examples of LE going through the woods to track fugitives. 1998 in North Carolina, they were in the woods looking for Eric Rudolph. In 2013, LAPD sent specialized units into mountainous terrain looking for Christopher Dorner. So if you wanted to explore something like that in your story, even if the setting is more realistic, you totally can. Gear and loadout. So, loadout-wise, Resident Evil 1 does have a few tactical issues. I understand why they made this choice, because from a gameplay perspective, you, at least at this point in time in game development, you want the player to start with basic weapons. No crazy mechanics to learn, you don't want the player overpowered, so they start you off with a 9mm, which for a specialized unit, something similar to STAR, SWAT, or whatever real-world counterpart, is pretty ridiculous. Nowadays, even regular patrol officers have handgun and a long arm. Sure, 9mm works. I carried 40 caliber. I know some departments that carried 45 calibers. Fucking maniacs. But I also carried both a shotgun and an AR-15. One long arm was required. Now, sure, that was not the reality in the late 90s, which this takes place in 1998. But for a specialized unit, they for sure carried a long gun. This is after the North Hollywood shootout, so they probably would have everyone except maybe Rebecca Chambers carry a shotgun, an AR-15, or an M16 variant. In the late 90s, there was a Colt variant called a CAR-15. Heck, Chris is the point man. He carries a Samurai Edge, which he lost. It's like a modified 9mm. So they would have had Kevlar helmet, a sidearm, a long arm, knife is optional, maybe a multi-tool, gloves, knee pads, and similar uniforms and loadouts. Someone like Chris, who was the designated marksman, would have had like a Remington, hunting rifle, something chambered in 7.62 or 308. If you're not a gun person, it's like a rifle that's good for hunting. Shoot the same type of round or a similarly sized round as an AK-47. If you wanted to justify the setting for your game, a task force works a little better, especially if you're gonna have a dude with fucking sunglasses at night. Ugh. So police departments, small, mid-size, and large, they have task forces for all sorts of things like illegal drug grows, meth, warrants, etc. So this would work better for a game because in one setting, like in Resident Evil 1, if you want different characters with different uniforms, loadouts, weapons, and capabilities, like one person with rolled up pants, one person wearing a beret, a marksman without a rifle, you could get away with that if you have a task force. Police departments basically get together to tackle a common mission or threat. Damn, the video's gone on a bit long. Next time, I'll tackle some more practical considerations for your story in a setting like Resident Evil 1. So we're talking about threats, combat, real-world considerations. Maybe we'll do Resident Evil 2 and some of the other games in the series. So like and share if you found this somewhat useful. Peace.